Good morning from Centerville, Ohio. It's a beautiful day out, the birds are out, the squirrels are out, and I think someone's to my left here who came in. His name's Clyde. Last time I talked about the London Blitz, how the Luftwaffe was bombing London and all the cities of England from basically September 1940 all through most of 1941. And we talked about how you could see the devastation wherein the enemy were against a silent one. It looks beautiful outside. Throughout 1940, when the Battle of Britain went on, when Britain was all alone, it was crucial for the British Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, who actually was half American, his mother was American, was desperate to get the help of the American president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to give economic aid to Britain. Now, Roosevelt was running for a third term in November 1940. He could not commit. Many Americans wanted nothing to do with European wars. We had lost 50,000 soldiers in the trenches in just 6 months in 1918, and it was not a war to end all wars. In fact, all it helped was the European empires enslaved more indigenous people. And particularly if you were of German and Irish extraction, like I am, in states like Ohio, while they didn't care for Hitler, they didn't want their boys to shed blood for the British Empire. After Roosevelt won his election to a third term, he wanted to help Britain. Hitler controlled the whole continent of Europe, from the cliffs of Dover all the way to Russia, except for Switzerland, Sweden, Portugal, and Spain, who were neutral. Roosevelt decided to send over his most trusted advisor in January and February 1941 to be his personal messenger to go over to Britain for 6 weeks and to make a report back on whether his administration would basically stake their political necks on sending economic and military aid to Britain. The man's name was Harry Hopkins. He was a social worker from Iowa, really had no background in international affairs, but he was Roosevelt's key man. He stood about 6 feet and he weighed 95 pounds. He had a nutritional deficiency. He could eat, but very little nutrition got to him. In fact, he was actually a dying man when he was sent over in January and February 1941. Churchill was very smart. He could do 2 things: hide all the bad stuff from Hopkins, try and say, hey, we're doing okay, we just need you to help us to win this war, or show him what was really going on. That yes, well, Britain had won the Battle of Britain. There's no way they could defeat Hitler. Churchill said, show this man everything. Anything he wants to see. As we'd say, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so for 6 weeks, Hopkins had carte blanche all throughout Great Britain, England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. Anything he wanted to see, he was allowed to see. He could come into every meeting that Churchill was in. He saw all the maps. His final evening took place at a dinner in Glasgow, Scotland. They were all there at a table, Churchill, all the leaders, all the military leaders of Britain, and Hopkins would be the last one to speak. The question was going to be, what would he say or what would he not say? Because the lifeline to Britain was depending on this. Everyone talked. At the end, Hopkins got up and he said, I'm sure all of you here tonight want to know what I'm going to tell the president when I get back home. Then he pulled out of his pocket a script of paper from the book of Ruth, and he read these lines. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God shall be my God. Churchill, a very emotional man, broke down weeping, as did many. That quote from Ruth by Harry Hopkins basically told them, you are not alone. We'll be there to help you economically. We'll send you military aid as much as we can, but you will not be alone. And of course, 10 months later, the attack of Pearl Harbor and Hitler's declaration of war against America, we were all in. You will not be alone. As we read these words from the book of Ruth, that's what God tells us right now. There's not bombs going off. There's not dead being carried through the streets, though in New York City it's pretty grim, and in other cities in the world. But we are not alone. We serve a great God. He knows the end from the beginning, and He's going to pull us through this. And we will have an even greater faith when we come out on the other side. And remember, ministry doesn't end just because the church buildings are not open. God bless you, and I look forward to talking to you again. God bless.